it's still processing. And so, I mean, can you remember the last ad you saw today?
No.
Exactly. But I know you've seen them. Mm-hmm. It's because you're just processing through what is it that's helpful to me? What is it that's valuable to me that solves a problem I care about? Mm-hmm. And if you're not addressing that problem that your customer is up at night thinking about, well, it's just noise to them. And they're going to tune it out just like every other ad that they saw that day.
Welcome to the Thrive Podcast, where we dive deep into tech entrepreneurship and strategic growth. I'm your host, Bill Potter, founder of Thrive Advisors, and I'm here to guide tech-led founders through the maze of challenges on their journey to maximizing enterprise valuation. Whether it's scaling your team, navigating market shifts, or unlocking revenue streams, we'll explore actionable strategies and insights to help you thrive in today's competitive landscape. Join me as we uncover the secrets to strategic growth and success in tech startups. Get ready for an electrifying episode featuring two extraordinary guests. First up is Tammira Philippe, a dynamic C-suite executive with a knack for driving success in growth stage companies. From McKinsey to $1 billion investment companies leadership, she's honed her skills and resilience in diverse environments. Next up is Clay, our marketing strategist at Thrive Advisors. He's joining us with a passion for propelling SaaS businesses to new heights. Clay's expertise and dedication are unmatched. From breaking down barriers to award-winning film productions, he's truly an industry powerhouse. Be part of this exclusive journey as we uncover insights and strategies and secrets behind their remarkable journeys. This episode is not just a game changer, it's a treasure trove of invaluable lessons and inspirations you won't want to miss out on. Welcome, Tammira. Welcome, Clay.
Thanks for having us.
So glad to be here. Thank you.
Tammira and Clay, your expertise in growing companies is well respected. Can you explain to me your go-to-market strategy for growth stage companies?
Well, I'll start with the briefest version I can get for you, and true to form, I'll say that focus is the hardest thing and the most important thing. It's so hard to make those choices about where to focus for go-to-market, but that's the most important thing. And the way that I've seen that done best is really to understand and start with corporate strategy. What are we trying to be as a total firm for our clients and customers? And then to make sure that your go-to-market strategy is completely linked to that and that you're making hard choices about that alignment. So that's what I've seen work especially at the growth stage where you have limited resources and you may have to make hard choices.
Excellent point.
So I completely agree, and I would just add to that. I think that a successful go-to-market strategy is going to be really boiled down to a couple key points. So first, in addition to what you had highlighted about just kind of overall corporate strategy, you want to make sure that you understand what it is you're selling. Understand your product, but not just your product, because there's so many guys out there and gals that are just focused on this one product that they've developed, and they've zeroed in on it and they love it, and they forget about their customer. They forget about the problem that product solves. So you've got to make sure you have an understanding of that. And then you've got to make sure that you've got a plan for communicating that. So from the marketing perspective, when you're going to market, you need to make sure that you actually understand not just what your product does, but what problem it solves. And then you integrate that into every form of your marketing.
Great point.
What are your thoughts?
Well, when we have already established our company, we would have a very effective feedback loop with our clients. And so that would constantly tell us what they were valued. So give me an idea before, for our audience that are starting their tech companies, how do you determine what problem it solves, what the customer values before you even have a customer?
Brilliant. And I want to hear from Tammira on this too, but I would just say, there's obviously some inciting event where the idea was sparked for creating this product or service. So go back to that. Go back to the origin story on that. And what problem did it solve for you? What were you trying to overcome? And I love, on the Thrive podcast, we get to hear from so many industry experts who absolutely understand their specific niche in the market. And it's fantastic. So I highly encourage all of you guys to go and listen to the other episodes. And what you'll hear in those episodes, guys, is there's this consistent theme. And that theme is tied to understanding what it is that you as a company, as an organization, are trying to solve, what purpose you have in even establishing that. So go backwards and find out why that initial inciting event propelled you to create this product. And then you go and find the companies that are in that same space. So maybe it's a software that you've developed, and it is directed towards one of our clients is in the environmental remediation space, and they've developed this product that is specifically tied to helping other environmental remediation companies around the country expedite their testing process. So effectively saving thousands of dollars on every job. So go to every single environmental remediation company and develop a list and ask them, hey, I'm sending a survey to you. I'll pay you $10 Amazon gift card or something like that. I'd love your feedback. So get that feedback from your target audience that you're hoping to support. And I think you've built a gold mine at that point. So, Tammira, any other thoughts?
I don't have a lot to add other than, do everything you can to find out what the customer's real pain point is. But I want to pick up on one thing you said about purpose. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've had, the privilege to do and hope to do for my entire career is spend my entire career at the intersection of profit and purpose. And when I say that, people often ask me, for-profit business, isn't the purpose profit? And I'm perplexed by why I get asked, but really what the definition I like to think about is, first of all, profit is the ultimate measure of customer value created. All of us should strive for, and the most successful businesses I've seen have been businesses that create something that people love to pay for because of the value that it's bringing to them. So if that's the idea that profit is customer value created, then when you think about the purpose of your company, in addition to customer value created, you can look at all of what I like to call the stakeholders involved, the people that work there, in some industries, many industries, the regulators that are providing oversight, the communities that the business is founded in, and the communities that the customers are in. The question is, purpose of any for-profit company comes from what is the benefit that group of stakeholders is getting from your business existing. And that purpose and that profit, that intersection, is really what I think tech-led founders have to focus on, because what I see more often when things go wrong is they just get excited about creating the product and the technology, and oh my goodness, it works. Yeah. But it works to solve what problems is the real question.
Excellent point. Let me draw a specific example. We're all working with Data Capable at this point, a recent acquisition, and they've been in business for about 10 years. And it came out of Hurricane Harvey that they felt that the outage maps for the electric utility industry were inadequate to serve, as you said, the purpose, which is the stakeholders. It wasn't just the end consumer. It was the utility. It was the regulators. And what they did is carefully took a look at the competition and saw the inadequacies of their outage maps. They looked to the regulators to understand what they were expecting. The costs that were being driven up by having an inadequate program was causing customers to call into the call center, significantly increasing their costs. And so they went about understanding the consumer from that standpoint and built probably the best-in-class outage map that even exists today in the industry. And so, they hadn't had a single customer at that point when they came up with the idea of doing all that research. And now, with the many logos that they have in the utility industry, they have that constant feedback feedback loop of what is going on, and that's driving the innovation of advancing that product.
And if I can just add on to that, we had Dr. Rowan from a previous episode this season come in, and he is heavily involved in AI, specifically in the medical field. And one thing that he said that really stood out to me, especially in this day and age when we're talking about technology and SaaS, AI is changing everything. And
Absolutely.
It's really changing it on a day-to-day basis. So there needs to be not just a one-time engagement with your prospective customers. It needs to be a constant feedback loop where you're engaging them on a regular basis about how their problem is changing, because AI is constantly changing that playing field. So I just wanted to make sure that that was stated. It's not just a one-time ask to those prospects.
Right.
It's a constant engagement. And with Data Capable, they have consistently pivoted to match the needs. And that's why they stay best in class in the industry, and why they are, in my opinion, the best outage map technology currently in the utility space. So,
well, one of the things that I enjoyed about interviewing Dr. Ron is his innovation. First and foremost, he's a physician, and he's a physician covering really a game-changing innovation of how physicians engage with their patients. And what they're doing is, before the patient even makes the appointment, AI is engaging with them. And one of the things that he pointed out is that they're able to detect issues before the doctor even sees them and can prioritize that. And so when I thought about that, not just from a healthcare perspective, because we do have healthcare clients at Thrive, it was, how do you apply that mindset of innovation, of being able to triage customer issues before they even talk to a human being, and thus reduce that customer effort in engaging with your brand, which always increases customer satisfaction and always increases customer loyalty. So, yeah, excellent point about Dr. Ron is just certainly a game
He's on another
changer.
level.
Yes, he is definitely on another level. Clay,
Bill, could I pick
sure,
up on one
sure.
thing that you said and tie it back to the question about go to market? When you were talking about Data Capable, I heard you say something that I've seen very common among engineering teams, across the tech industry and even in other industries that I've had a chance to see. And it's that the idea of best in class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, has anybody ever met an engineering team that doesn't think their product is best in class? And I love that. It's one of the things that excites me about working with those engineering teams and trying to help them think about, how do we go to market? What is our strategy? And, it ties back to what I said. You can be best in class in a focused area. You've got to figure out in what focused area are you best in class.
Mm-hmm.
That is how you define your ideal customer set. And what's so interesting to me that I've asked engineering teams before is, okay, well, if you're best in class but nobody knows about it, are you really?
Yes.
So if no one's ever, it's the whole, if the tree falls in the forest and nobody's hears it, did it fall? But yeah, that's what I think is so interesting and, has been compelling to me throughout my career of focusing on the sales and marketing ends of businesses and meeting those, tech-led entrepreneurs or, other just people who can really create best-in-class products, helping them see that you got to tell people about it.
Exactly.
Otherwise, are you really best in class? So
That's an
I'm
excellent point.
excited about talking with the two of you about, how do we pair up, as professionals with these incredible entrepreneurs and engineers and other manufacturers who can really make best in class products, because that's like a salesperson's dream, right?
Absolutely. Well, and that's the importance of a go-to-market strategy to begin with. Clay, as the CMO of Thrive Advisors, your strategies have undoubtedly empowered many SaaS businesses to achieve remarkable growth. Can you elaborate on how you break down those barriers and foster such success?
Yeah, so that's obviously that's what we do here at Thrive. I mean, it's not just me; it's the entire team combined is approaching it from a financial perspective, from an operational perspective, from even evaluating product and making sure that there's a good roadmap there. But ultimately, from a marketing perspective, how are we breaking down those barriers? Well, it's first understanding what we were just talking about. What is that go-to-market strategy? What is the problem that this product is solving for our customer? And years ago, I came across a company out of Austin called Podium. And I went to their website and it said, and I actually wrote it down because it didn't make any sense. It said, experiential education reimagined. Get started. And, I was like, what the heck does that mean? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. What is experiential education? I mean, yes, we experience education when we go to school. And so I did a little digging, and they had just finished their second round of funding, and they had raised $35 million, which was great, very impressive. But they had burned through that $35 million like that. And they were not generating any revenue. I mean, the amount of traffic coming to their website was slim to none. And I mean, we're talking about a pretty significant investment in a business, and I didn't even understand what they did. And so after digging, and I even sent them an email, and I was like, hey, you should probably update your messaging here. I realized and found out that they were just supporting local universities and local district colleges all around the country with essentially virtual learning. I mean, that's what they were doing, but it didn't make any sense. And so I just said, hey, guys, all you got to do is just change your messaging, tell people exactly what you do, and you'll be fine. I never got a response, so I don't know. But I did notice the website updated pretty soon after.
I guess they didn't experience your education of them.
I guess not. But that I think is a great example of what many technology and SaaS companies, they're so in the weeds on their product that
they're not paying attention to their customer.
They're not paying attention to the customer. And I love the analogy of you're so close to it. It's almost like trying to read the label from inside the box. You're reading backwards. What is that supposed to say? And it's hard to know how to communicate simply about the product that you care so much about because you spent years and millions of dollars probably developing it. And you're like, well, of course everyone knows what it does. No, they don't. This is their first engagement with you. And so breaking down barriers starts with clarifying your message. And if you have an unclear message, you're going to lose your audience. We live in a confusing world where everyone is inundated with all this noise. The average human being sees, I think the latest report is around 5,000 ads a day. That's a lot of advertisements for someone to have to process through. And it's a decal here or a billboard here, but it's still processing. And so, I mean, can you remember the last ad you saw today?
No.
Exactly. But I know you've seen them. Mm-hmm. It's because you're just processing through what is it that's helpful to me? What is it that's valuable to me that solves a problem I care about? Mm-hmm. And if you're not addressing that problem that your customer is up at night thinking about, well, it's just noise to them. And they're going to tune it out just like every other ad that they saw that day. And so that's the first barrier we break down, is just understanding how to communicate about yourself. The second barrier that we have to break down is what you alluded to, visibility. If no one knows you exist, it's like building this beautiful mansion in the wilderness and forgetting to build a road there. So you've got to make sure that people have a chance to get there, to find you. And so that's where you employ strategic marketing that is relevant to your customer. Not everyone needs an SEO campaign. Not everyone needs to run LinkedIn ads, but everyone needs to be doing something to get in front of your customers at least 13 times. If you don't hit that 13 number, it used to be 7, and before that, I think it used to be 3. I mean, because of all of this inundation. So you've got to get in front of someone enough where they're going to remember you. Oh, I saw that before. Let me pay attention to that a little bit more now. And so that's the second barrier we try to break down. And then I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes, but the third barrier is, all right, well, we clarified our message from a marketing perspective. We made sure that our prospect actually was able to see that message. Okay, well, now what? Well, we've got to get them to convert. We've got to make sure that we don't leave it at just visibility. And that's where I think most sales professionals get frustrated with marketers, because marketers only focus on, I call them the NFL football stats, the vanity metrics. It's all of this information, all these numbers. They're meaningless, because what an entrepreneur cares about is the bottom line. What is my revenue tied to the marketing dollars that I'm putting in? And so where that boils down is making sure there's synergy between marketing and sales, so that you're not having all of this visibility, all of this engagement, and then no closed deals. So that's my initial thoughts. Tammira,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, one of the things I wanted to pick up on as you're talking about creating visibility is, when we've all had this experience, is just the evolution and the blurring of the distinction between business to business marketing and business to consumer marketing. And because our audience is tech-led entrepreneurs, and Bill, I'd love for you to chime in because you have deep experience, a lot of them are doing business to business
Correct.
marketing and needing to create that visibility business to business. And I'm going to pause there because I would love for you to chime in about that distinction that you've seen based on creating visibility. And of course, I can add from my experience, but I know the brief conversation we've had, this is core to, some of your deepest
Well,
thinking.
before Data Capable and Thrive, I didn't have the benefit of the go-to-market strategy that Clay has been able to bring to bear for those companies and their clients. But at Message Broadcast, we had a marketing department that was more on marketing logistics than really a go-to-market strategy. So the way that we grew our company from, virtually a startup to a 9-figure exit was that we well, first of all, we were listening to our clients, and we had major Fortune 500 clients in almost every vertical. And the way that when we focused on the utility industry, what we did is we attended conferences, and we went from attending them to exhibiting in a small booth to larger booths, bigger sponsorship, and the bigger sponsorship gave us speaking engagements. And then as soon as we had speaking engagements, we would take our enterprise clients with us and co-present with them, that we would break down a problem that they were having and how our solutions addressed their problems. And before long, it was brand marketing before we even understood the concept of brand marketing, was that we got the industry talking about us. And then we would be the keynote speaker. We would be defining some of the largest problems that we were solving for the utility industry. And we would be, at the conference in our booth, and we would have utility companies coming to us that we had never spoken to. Our salespeople had never called on them and saying, "Hey, we just heard about you in this session." We weren't even speaking in that session. So the brand marketing was working, and from that we became the talk of the industry in terms of solving those specific problems. So that's how we addressed it. But obviously there are much more sophisticated ways in today's digital economy how to be able to translate that into the same effect. But the thing that I love about brand marketing is, most companies think that in a B2B environment, you can cold call your way to success. Well, you may get some success that way, but it's not how you scale a business to a very profitable exit. And so I started learning as we became more proficient at brand marketing, was that the sales force wasn't really there to sell. It was there to facilitate the purchase. And so being able to work with and nurture those clients as they were coming to us and doing the solution engineering, so to speak, of what their needs were and making sure that they understood how our solution addressed those needs. And that brand marketing was sort of like the Air Force coming in and creating that awareness, that buzz, that excitement, that here's a best-in-class solution provider. And so, now that I think about go-to-market strategy, it involves all that, much to what you were saying, and you were saying as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to build on from what you said, Bill, that the first time I heard you say it, and even here today, it resonates so deeply with me that I've seen across industries, including, one of the most competitive in the world was the investment management industry that I spent a big portion of my career in. And it's very hard to stand out and very hard to differentiate yourself. And what we would always say, it was a lot of professional buyers, right, who are also individual consumers inside. And that art of, marketing to a professional buyer, selling to a professional buyer, but remembering that you create visibility to them also as a consumer. The idea is that most products, especially, a lot of the software products that our tech-led entrepreneurs are creating, are bought, not sold. And that's
There.
that's what we would always say.
Right.
And I love the idea. The best salespeople that I've led, hired, worked with, seen in action, and even myself, we are facilitating a buying process.
Exactly.
What salespeople get fired up about when they have deep relationships, which is the thing that, is the key, is being able to come in and solve a problem. They go in with a mindset that there's a problem to be uncovered that they are going to solve with some product that, or service that they're representing. That's what I've seen in the best salespeople. And Clay, I loved how you were talking about marketing, being able to meet those salespeople right where they want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, marketing is there to support sales, and sales is there to provide feedback to marketing.
Right. There's an old saying that people don't like to be sold, but they enjoy buying. And, it's interesting that I've seen at so many companies where they're focused on KPIs for selling. How many phone calls did you make? How many emails did you send out? Which is the antithesis of enabling a purchasing experience rather than selling. And so I think that when you get the industry focused on your brand and they're showing interest, I mean, how many of us have gone into an Apple store? We're not going in there to be sold. We know exactly what we want to buy. And why is that? Because Apple has done a superior job of making their products, in our perception, being best in class. We don't need to be sold. We just want to go and talk to a person to acquire that product. And so much in the same way, I think that's where you've been driving and the differentiation of your investment firm is creating that awareness that is the right product to acquire. So, great. Tammira, you've held various leadership roles from McKinsey to that investment management firm. How do you integrate Storybrand marketing into your go-to-market strategies to create that impactful narrative that resonates with customers?
Well, I'll be brief because I would love Clay to talk about this more because I know this is his deep expertise. But I mean, the most important thing that we worked on is that every single person in the companies that I've led and been a part of is a brand ambassador. And so we invested in every person being able, not just the salespeople, not just the marketing people, but every person being able at a cocktail party per se to tell the story about our, service or product that we were offering. And in that way, it's those, and we would practice it in all hands meetings. And in that way, you got all these very personalized stories that represented your brand from the perspective of a very diverse team that we had in those cases. And that's just one little snippet from my experience. That experience. So when we would do those all hands meetings and, you'd go around the room and everybody would tell the story the way they'd heard our messaging, then that would also give especially our sales team, some innovative ideas about different ways to tell the story, because that is what we all have seen best facilitates a buying process, is if you can show up in front of a customer who you can listen a lot, first of all, get them to tell you what their problems are, and then tell them a story of how you've solved that problem and give them confidence that that problem can be solved by the product or service that you're offering. So that's what I've seen. But Clay, please, get our audience kind of grounded in what Storybrand really is.
Yeah. Well, first off, I just want to commend you. Like, one of the most difficult things that businesses face is getting their team on board with the messaging. And so if you can get everybody from the cleaning team who comes in after hours to the CEO communicating the same thing, but from their perspective, I mean, you're going to have a highly equipped sales force. So I love that. And to build on that, I'd say that there's so much tied to having clarity across the board. And I think that's what ultimately will differentiate a company is clarity. It's not the best product that wins. Unfortunately, it never is. It's going to be the one with the clearest message. I ran across I'm a motorcycle rider. I love motorcycles. I love skydiving, all that kind of stuff. It's fantastic. I'm kind of a adrenaline junkie on that front. I came across this pilot who has this brand of sunglasses, and they're so amazing. I mean, they're the best sunglasses I've ever seen. But when you think of high-end sunglasses, what do you think of? I mean, what brands do you think of? Oakley.
Absolutely.
I was going to say
Ray-Ban.
Ray-Ban.
Yeah, Ray-Ban. Yeah, Oakley or Ray-Ban, something along those lines. Their product is trash. I mean, it really is not good. I mean, they're manufacturing them for pennies on the dollar and selling them for a premium because they have a good brand. They've got a clear message. Whereas this other provider, the guy that I met, the pilot, he has a company called Flying Eyes. Highly recommend you go check them out. They're amazing sunglasses. They're highly moldable. They fit behind helmets, so you can wear them when you're skydiving. You can wear them, and they look great too. But he has no traction in marketing. No traction, no clarity in his messaging. And I've talked to him about it. I know he's going to jump on board. But ultimately, I think he's a great example of having a great product that could absolutely compete with Ray-Ban, Oakley, and all of these other products that are considered high-end, but they're not. And so I think all of that to be said, when we're thinking about your messaging and integrating Storybrand into that, you've got to make sure that you're not trying to differentiate yourself, because that's what Flying Eyes is trying to do. They're trying to differentiate from Oakley and Ray-Ban. But really, you just need to talk about what it is that you sell. Why are these sunglasses so great? Why is your product so incredible? Not why are you different than the competitor? And so that's where Storybrand comes in, is because it helps you avoid that pit that most marketing teams will fall into. Oh, well, this is our unique selling factor, or this is how we're different from our competitor. No, we just need to talk about how we're clearer. Or let me rephrase that. We need to clearly talk about how we are solving the problem for the customer, because that's what they care about. They don't care about the different factors. That's causing them to burn calories trying to just understand how you solve their problem. And we don't want to do that. We want to remove those barriers and make it so crystal clear how you solve that problem. And that's what Storybrand is all about. Clearly identifying that you, as the company, that software, you're not the hero swooping in to save the day. You are there to guide them. You're the Yoda to Luke Skywalker, if I can drop my nerdiness in this podcast a little bit. But that's the goal. And if you're not doing that and you're talking about how you're the best thing since sliced bread, well, you're going to fall on deaf ears, because ultimately people care about you solving their problems.
Bill, what's the difference that you've seen in the Storybrand approach, and how it really helps for a tech-led entrepreneur?
Well, I can say, in terms of data capable, it's well, I mean, Clay, you've been crafting that strategy for data capable, but it is to be able to take a look at the current competition and being able to differentiate from them, just as you were talking about with our new sponsor. But in any case, most industry executives that have to use the product, they have a clear understanding of the limitations of their current vendor. And so it's really just a matter of getting the message out and being able to differentiate, what makes this more resilient, more functional, what the return on investment is, in terms of reducing contacts in the call center, because with the outage map that the customers are getting the information in real time and updates in real time, and with a great deal more information than they're getting from their current outage map. So it's being able to effectively get that message out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I love that you pulled up data capable, because when we stepped in and acquired data capable, the messaging was all about situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does that mean? I mean,
the same as experiential education.
Exactly. And so we just updated the messaging to focus on advanced outage maps.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we sell.
Right.
And we have incredible opportunities to build upon those advanced outage maps for our customers depending on their needs. Well, that's a lot clearer than situational awareness when it matters most.
Right.
Because no one understands that. They have to think, okay, well, how does that apply to me? And you end up getting a lot of confusion, and we want to avoid confusion, because if you confuse, you lose.
Right.
Every time.
Well, we call that buzzword bingo.
I love that.
Yeah. In any case, well, Tammira, with your experience in marketing sales, what are your top strategies for aligning, these two functions of marketing and sales? I mean, it's a little bit like cats and dogs, as we were saying before. If it's not working, marketing is blaming sales. Sales is so. What strategies have you used to align these two functions to drive revenue?
Well, sure. I need to go back to the basics, because, having worked at early stage and growth stage companies, I just want to say that, knowing there is a distinction between marketing and sales actually puts you as an entrepreneur, way ahead of most of your competition. Because in my experience, there's still just a lot of old ways of thinking that all I need is one guy with a Rolodex and that's going to solve all my problems and that's it. And then, most of the time when you hire that one guy with the Rolodex, he's like, where's your marketing? And then the entrepreneur's like, what's marketing? At the early stages and the growth stage too, I mean, frankly, the thing I've found is there isn't as much tension in the beginning, because a lot of times that's all in one person, like the founder or, a co-founder, or the one hire that you've been able to make in sales and marketing, and that person has to do a little bit of everything. But the tension does start to arise when success comes, and you do have to start making separation between these functions. And it's wonderful on one hand, because people can go towards their highest and best use. If somebody just loves being in front of the customer, they're going to want to be in more of that customer-facing sales role. But again, time is the most precious resource that all of us have. And if you are fully dedicated to your sales function, no longer do you have time to build that very clear message. So you're relying on these marketing teams to do that for you. And, frankly, you become like the buyers, please do it for me and get it to me in the fastest, easy ways possible, where I burn the fewest calories thinking about it. And I think that's where the tension comes in, is when you start to have that separation, which is also that separation, when done well, is what unlocks the revenue growth that every company is trying to reach to get to that next level. So that's my experience with it.
That's great.
Clay, considering that Thrive is focusing very significantly on sales as a service, how do you approach tailoring that sales strategy to the unique needs of SaaS business?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So from a marketing perspective, sales as a service is the best approach that any startup and really, I'd say if they're in between the 3 and 10 million in revenue mark, that's kind of where bringing on a sales as a service team like Thrive is going to truly help catapult you to success. And it's going to happen because when we bring in marketing and we have synergy with sales, you're going to ultimately have a faster time to close, and you're going to get more value out of that closing. And so the way that's happening is first we develop that clear marketing message. So with data capable, it's advanced outage maps. Okay, well we focus on funneling people to the sales team. Well, what happens when the sales team picks up those folks? Well, what most businesses do is the sales team does whatever they've always done to close the deal. And more often than not, that message is very different than what marketing is saying. And I know this is just, I hear it in pretty much every business that I talk to. It's this frustration between operations and sales and marketing of, well, you're selling something that we don't offer, or you're selling something that we're going to have to build to match. And so there's all of this frustration, and it tends to boil over and cause sometimes staff to leave. So that really ties back to marketing and sales talking to each other.
Right.
And so what marketing will do is you'll put together, following Storybrand, you'll put together a brand script. So this is kind of the overarching filter that you use to push all messaging through, including sales scripts. So you start out by developing this messaging, and that's what the customer's hearing on the broad side of the funnel. And then as you narrow in, you develop individualized sales scripts based off of that brand script that is going to help address that specific product or service that you're selling. And to your point earlier, it's not even tied to that specific product. It's tied to the problem that compelled the customer to come and find interest in your product. And so that's the best value, in my opinion, of having sales as a service, because you're also not having to pay for inexperienced folks. You're paying for people who are seasoned,
Right.
and have been doing this forever. And it's not this new guy who doesn't really know what your product is or who your customer is. And so sales as a service is ultimately bringing in a team of experts that are not just focused on lead generation, because that's marketing, that's not sales. They're focused on closing. And that's why Thrive is really changing the game right now.
Well, yeah, I completely agree. Sales as a service is a concept that hasn't really matured into the SaaS industry as much as it should. And the reason for that is that when you're a small company, you can't really afford a large group of expert salespeople. And even if you could, they wouldn't want to work for you because they simply couldn't make enough money from you being an under $10 million revenue company. And so the theory behind sales as a service is you bring in the top salespeople, sales talent, and cultivate them. They have established relationships with your end buyer. And the reason that they're willing to do that is because with Thrive, we have a great number of similar companies that are complementary to each other, not competitive, and they're best in class, so that they can have solutions. I mean, one responsibility of a salesperson to a buyer is to bring them the solutions they need when they need them. And so by able to represent a number of Thrive clients simultaneously into that vertical, not only is the end buyer accomplishing what they want, the best product at the time that they need them, but the salesperson thus can make multiples higher than they would working for a single larger company. But now we can bring that solution to a growth stage company and explode the growth. But they still need to be supported by brand marketing.
Absolutely.
Because creating that awareness and that demand, first of all, so that they're just representing the solution that they're already aware of.
That's good. Tammira, what do you think?
The thing I wanted to add as you were talking, Bill, is that it really is a win-win-win. A win for the end customer, because as we've talked about and we all know, time is the most precious resource. So that end buyer gets to have a relationship with a person that they've built some trust with and get more from that person. That saves them time, which is all the buyers I've ever known, that's what they're all, like all of us, looking to save time. It's a win for the sales team because the best sales professionals want to be able to solve their customers' problems.
Yep.
And to do that, they need, as you've talked about, best-in-class solutions in multiple areas. And then it's a win for, the tech-led entrepreneurial company because they're getting access to talent on this sales function that they wouldn't otherwise get. And it allows them to focus on what typically I've seen tech-led entrepreneurial firms be good at and be able to be the best in the world at, which is making that great solution for clients. And so I like winning. And so finding something like that you can win is definitely something I've seen succeed in a lot of other industries. And Bill, it's interesting based on your experience to see that it's really at the nascent stages in the SaaS area and particularly in certain verticals. And it should be an exciting time in the years to come to see what Thrive and clients are able to accomplish.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to be able to talk for hours more, but we are, I'm having such a good time here. I'm looking at the clock here and I'm realizing how long we're running. I will ask, just a general question to both of you. So in that our clients are tech-led founders, oftentimes they are experiencing a period of stagnation. And so as we onboard these clients at Thrive, what is your advice to them when they're reevaluating their go-to-market strategy? So they've been in business 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. They've had some growth, but now they're stagnated. And so they're scratching their head. And obviously what Thrive does is it looks at the entire business, not just sales and marketing, of what is inhibiting that growth. But assuming that it's not operational or financial or some other technological issue, if it is sales and marketing, what's your advice to them?
You first. Clay.
Okay, sounds good. So Bill, when you and I first met, you said something that stuck with me ever since. And I've run many, many businesses over the years, serial entrepreneur, have built, sold. And one thing that I had always just assumed about business was it was kind of like a staircase. It was like, you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. And you said, Clay, that's not supposed to happen. It doesn't have to be that way. And my mind was blown. And you were saying, no, you can literally just do this. And I think most business owners, maybe I'm just being, not wanting to admit the fact that I'm the only one that thinks this way, but I imagine most business owners kind of have the same thing, that same perspective of, well, we grow and then we kind of reassess and then reevaluate and then grow again and then reassess and reevaluate. When you have sales, operations, finance, marketing, all of the key functions of a business operating with not just clear tenacity in the moment, but clear vision on where you're trying to go, and you have the team to support you, to make sure you have the capital in place, to support you, to make sure that you have the team hired in advance so that you're not constantly experiencing these slowdowns. Well, I mean, what business owner wouldn't want that? And I mean, if you had the opportunity to just, no, I'll stick it on my own. Well, I mean, the reality is it'll probably work if you just continue to do this, but you're going to sell the company for much, much less than what you could.
Over a longer period of time.
Over a much longer period of time. I mean, I know people, and I run across them all the time, they've been in business for 30 years, and they're ready to retire. And they're like, all right, I'm ready to sell my business. Yeah. And they never built it with that in mind. And so their multiples lower, and they've been treating it as a lifestyle company instead of as a business groomed and ready for sale, for acquisition. And that's what Thrive does, is Thrive steps in and supports the current team in place and fills those gaps so that we're not constantly doing this, but that you're able to scale. And yes, you might have to give up equity for a capital raise or something along those lines, but you're going to be selling the company much faster and retiring much faster or doing whatever you want to do much faster, and you're going to make 10 times as much as what you could have if you had done it on your own.
One of the things that we focus on at Thrive is, the reason that we're in the SaaS tech business is because not only is it more scalable than a lot of other industries, but the profit margins are significant. Poorly run SaaS companies are in the 60% range. Well-run companies are considered in the 80% range. We've leaned SaaS clients out and got them up to 90%. Oftentimes, they don't need to dilute capital or dilute equity to raise capital because it's such a cash flow machine. But the important thing is, having that North Star of knowing what the buyers are buying, the PE companies and the strategics, and then being able to guide the metrics to being able to achieve that. But it goes back to the go-to-market strategy, and the marketing and the sales effort is to be able to exponentially grow that. Because what we've seen is you can take a $3 million company, which at that level, it's not that profitable. It has much lower multiples, but we can, within 2 to 3 years, get that same company to exceed 10 million in revenue, then 15 million in revenue, at which point you're talking about a 9-figure exit. And it's just not that difficult if you master the fundamentals in each area. Has that been your experience?
Definitely. And what I would add on the words of wisdom and advice, if you're facing stagnated growth, is first look in the mirror. How are you contributing to the problem that you don't want? If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times that sales and marketing is the problem. And by the way, it is sometimes, but it's not the problem as often as people think it is.
Right.
And if you're the CEO, founder, senior executive, and your growth is stagnated, you're definitely part of the problem. So look in the mirror is number one. Number two is, we've talked about it, but don't be afraid to get help. There are people who have experience and can help you overcome whatever challenge you're facing. And they're most of the time very excited about helping cool companies with best-in-class products. And then number three is just invest in relationships. That's with the team inside the company, with the customers and related to the company. Like a lot of times when we find ourselves in those situations of stagnation, we've neglected some relationships, and sometimes those relationships are the relationships in your personal life that you're not getting enough fuel to have that motivation and energy to take your company to the next level. So invest in your relationships is the thing.
All points well taken, well said. And the last one, the relationships, I can give testimony to the fact that the successful exit that we had was a result of our employees. We as leaders understood what was needed, but we accomplished it through that. So that's the subject of an entirely other episode, beyond sales and marketing. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for all your great insight, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Thrive Podcast. I hope our discussion with Tammira and Clay was insightful, practical, and applicable to your entrepreneurial journey. If you found value in today's conversation, please like, comment, subscribe, and share the episode with your fellow entrepreneurs. Your support enables us to continue bringing valuable content to the community. Until next time, keep thriving. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.